Why Game of Thrones Sucks. Season 7, Episode 5, Eastwatch. It starts with Bran and Jaime, who swam a mile underwater in heavy armor to get away from the battle, and no one bothered to try and track them down or capture them. Tyrion didn't send anybody to see if his brother was okay or capture what would be a valuable prisoner. They just swam off in their armor. I don't know how that works at all. I don't think Michael Phelps could have swam in that armor, but they do just fine. And Jaime looks suicidal and defeated. Bran tells him he can't die until I get paid. Bran has a real sense of purpose, and his priorities are very direct and straight. It goes to Tyrion and Daenerys. Daenerys gives a supervillain speech to all of their prisoners. Join or die. Some people do not want to join. She has a real fetish for people bending the knee, a thing they need to stop saying over and over. Vary your phrases a little bit. 142 times an episode hearing bend the knee is ridiculous. If you had a drinking game where every time they said bend the knee, they wouldn't have fans anymore. They'd all die of alcohol poisoning. The Tarlys do not want to bend the knee and explain that they're loyal to, the non-foreign invaders that burn all the grain to let all the people in King's Landing die. And she says, fine, and has them burnt alive in front of everybody else as a lesson. What a bitch. Tyrion is clearly unimpressed. She is really going full villain. The Mad Queen. She is not a breaker of chains on this continent. She is a slaver. Join me or die. Those are your options. Goes to Jaime reporting to Cersei on how the Dothraki are the greatest army he's ever seen, and no one could possibly defeat them, even though they looked like crap and they were stupid. They rode their horses right into a bunch of guys with shields and spears. They didn't use their horse bows. They didn't use spears of their own. They didn't form a line. It was just a ragged formation of guys with cavalry sabers riding into a bunch of spears. If that dragon hadn't been there, most of them would have just died. But it was the most impressive thing Jaime's ever seen. Apparently he's never been in a battle before where anyone put up any sort of resistance, which, judging by Highgarden, is probably true. The armies in this show are incompetent as hell. Then he tells Cersei that Olenna killed Joffrey. She initially doesn't believe him. And when she is convinced, her only regret is that they did not torture Olenna to death. So, typical Cersei. We go to Stormwatch, where Daenerys apparently is going to let her dragon eat Jon Snow, because she's just sitting on the back of it, looking very curious as to what's going on. Clearly has no idea if the dragon's going to bite him or burn him or anything. Jon decides to pet it, because Jon is an idiot. He takes off his glove and, more or less puts his hand right up by his mouth. If the dragon had been hungry at that moment, Jon would be dead. They are both very stupid. Daenerys gets off, talks about how pretty her dragons are and how they're children, and she just anthropomorphizes the hell out of them. She's clearly a whack job with no grasp on reality, who should buy a dog. And she explains her actions to Jon about how they're both good people and they can only do good things if all of the people bow to them and they rule them with an iron fist. She is Lady Stalin, I guess. Jorah shows up, having been freshly healed, which seemed really awkward since Samwell Tarly healed him. and she just murdered all of the other male Tarlys, which is neat. I was hoping that would come up in conversation. I think everyone would have been impressed. Yeah, it was healed by a friend of yours, Jon, Samwell Tarly. Oh, neat story. She just murdered all of the other Tarlys. We go to everyone's least favorite character, Bran, who wargs into some ravens. They fly off and see the White Walkers coming. They have been walking very slowly south since the middle of season 6 and still have gotten nowhere. I don't think this army is going to be a problem, as apparently the Dothraki are the scariest thing ever, and all of our armies can teleport, so I guess at this point I'm unconcerned with the slow, shambling army that can't get anywhere versus all of our teleporting fleets and dragons and armies. People are just from here to there in no time. God, this show makes no goddamn sense. They send a raven to the maesters. Sam tries to get the maesters to do something. They would prefer to do nothing. That's all they've ever done. The maesters make the whole Sam part of the thing really vexing, because they never do anything, they never believe anything, they never look into anything, they never study anything. They're useless. God, I want everybody in this show to die. Just die. The White Walkers should win. They should come over the wall and kill everybody who's bitching and moaning about the White Walkers, but doing nothing about it. Dumb shits. Then it goes to Tyrion and Varys, who are talking about Queen Daenerys being insane and burning people alive. Then they read Jon Snow's mail, which says an army of the dead is coming, which everyone knew. Daenerys says, I won't help you because Cersei will get the realm, and I'd rather everyone die than not get the throne. You can all just go straight to hell if I don't have a throne. She is the worst. So Tyrion comes up with a very convoluted plan to try and cease hostilities temporarily, where they're going to catch a wight, bring it to Cersei, and we'll all agree to a little armistice. I can't imagine how this is going to work, but he goes with the plan and everybody signs on. It goes to Winterfell, where Arya is watching Sansa be ineffective. Everyone's bitching about Jon Snow, and she's like, yeah, but, and doesn't really help him out at all. Arya follows her, basically explains to her that she's a bit of an ambitious cunt, and walks off. Davos takes Tyrion to King's Landing, where Tyrion meets with Jaime. It goes very poorly, and they don't really show any of the substantive part of the conversation, which kind of defeats the point of showing it all. It's all just, you killed my dad and I'm mad at you. Well, that's reasonable, but we knew that. You added nothing. And Davos goes and gets Gendry, which was about the only fun thing that happened, really. It's nice to see Gendry again. I'm sure he'll become a stupid, miserable dumbass very soon, but it was nice for the time being. They're leaving. Goldcloaks stop them. Gendry smashes 2 Goldcloaks to death with a hammer in defense of Tyrion. Davos tells Tyrion that this is Gendry, yet later insists that he lied to everybody about his name, so they kind of suck at this. They go back to Cersei and Jaime, where Jaime explains he met Tyrion. Cersei says, I already know. You should punish Bran for this horrible betrayal. The betrayal being leading him to a meeting where he was in no danger. Cersei says, I'm pregnant. They hug. It's very tender. Everyone needs another Lannister incest baby. All of the others did so well for themselves in life. And Cersei says, never betray me again. I don't know how Jaime betrayed her. He went to a meeting that he didn't know about. So apparently you can be surprised into betrayal. What a bunch of idiots. Davros brings Gendry to meet Jon Snow, tells him to lie about his name. He walks up and says, "Hi, I'm Gendry, Robert Baratheon's bastard." They make some jokes and instantly decide to become best friends forever, apparently. Then it goes to Sam and Gilly. Gilly's talking about how they're 15,782 steps. Sam is bitching, moaning, whining, and otherwise being contemptible. Then Gilly says Prince Rhaegar had his marriage annulled, and Sam just starts screaming over the top of her about how all of this is unfair and crap. It's the only really interesting thing that happened in the entire episode. Rhaegar got his marriage to the Martell annulled, apparently married Lyanna Stark, and had Jon Snow, Targaryen, has a baby in Dorne, so he's legitimate. And all of that is just brushed aside because Sam doesn't want to listen to a woman, I guess. It was really frustrating. They almost said or did something that moved things along and explained the history. Not that it explained the history well, because this means that the whole initial rebellion basically happened because Lyanna Stark couldn't be bothered to tell her family that she was running away with Rhaegar to get married. Instead, everyone assumed she was kidnapped and raped. They started a war. All of the Targaryens got killed aside from Daenerys and her brother, and apparently Jon Snow. And Robert became king. All because you couldn't send a fucking raven? Dear Ned, I ran off to get married to Prince Rhaegar. Please don't start any wars or get any people killed. What a fucking twat. The whole thing about the Mad King killing their father and brother is because they went to bitch about him kidnapping their sister, which didn't happen. Everything in this show is based on people being fucking idiots. God damn it. I hate this show so much. Arya follows Littlefinger around. Littlefinger is trying to manipulate her, which seems like a bad idea. I have a rule. I never try and manipulate a cold-blooded assassin. So far it seems to be working, but I don't think it's going to work out. Oh, she found an easily explained scroll that most people already know about. Big goddamn deal. But they tried to make it seem like a thing that happened. Jon and Jorah and company have magically teleported to Eastwatch. They talk to Tormund Giantsbane. He says, I know some other people who want to go across the wall, and takes them to the dungeon where Clegane and the Brotherhood Without Banners are all hanging out. And they decide to form a suicide squad of people who don't really like each other at all and go on the other side of the wall to try and catch a wight to bring to Cersei Lannister. All of this seems dementedly stupid. But I guess we'll see next episode because they just rolled credits on that. A bunch of people talking, no real action, and the only interesting thing that was said was 3 seconds long. What a bunch of crap. Tormund mentioned Brienne, who they should have brought with. She needs something to do. The stuff she does in the books has been cut out. There is no Lady Stoneheart or any of that, so she has nothing to do. Why not send her with this Suicide Squad? Euron Greyjoy has just disappeared with his magical teleporting fleet of 1,000 ships. Nothing to be said. It's all so strange and pointless. But we have 2 episodes left. We'll see if they can wrap all of this up. But I think it'll be more standing around and talking.